Thunder! 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 Thundercats! Ho!
Wow, we are here for episode 3 of the Thundercats recap. We are doing 103, The Burbles, which aired on September 11th of 1985. David is here with me. So this is a very important episode because we set up more of the plot, we set up more characters, and we meet the Burbles.
We meet some new friends and get a good food supply.
Right, this is the beginning of everything.
Beginning of me gaining weight again. Thank you, Burbles, with your candy fruit.
Now, if you're wondering what candy fruit is, you will learn. For anyone out there who doesn't know what candy fruit is. This episode starts with Panthro succeeds in constructing a brand new thunder tank by utilizing only the equipment that he salvaged from the wreck of their crashed flagship, which is amazing. He is proudly showing it off to the other Thundercats. A sudden, unexpected hailstorm breaks out, raining stones and boulders on them. While the Thundercats seek shelter inside the flagship, Panthro chooses to remain with his baby, the Thunder Tank. The hail covers the entire flagship with stones, but using the Thunder Tank, Panthro was able to dig out the ship. Gotta give it up to Panthro.
Was that sent by mumm-ra?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was, I believe.
Terrible.
I mean, and Third Earth, as we again are seeing that Third Earth is treacherous. Panthro somehow succeeds in building a Thunder Tank with salvaged parts. We don't know how long after the last episode aired that they were able to build this, but Panthro is doing it up.
And it's nice and shiny too and really put together. It doesn't look like a hoopty. You know, it doesn't look like
Not at all. Not at all. For salvage parts?
Yeah, it doesn't look like he got it for $500 off of wreckedcars.com or something.
And he managed to make it shaped like a cat face too. So he's damn, Panthro doing it for them. In the meantime, Lionel and Snarf, who are scouting the nearby forest, encounter a rhino creature who turns out to be rather harmless. But Snarf does try to protect Lionel from it because he is Lionel's nursemaid. As they continue to travel deeper into the forest, Lionel falls into a giant hole in the ground. Snarf tries desperately to pull him out, but before he can succeed, he and Lionel are both captured by what appear to be robotic bears. The bears then lead the two captives to their village, where they are introduced them to their leader, Bear Bill. He turns out to be very friendly, and after untying Lionel and Snarf, he tells them about his race. He tells them that he and his fellow bears are known as the Burbles, and they came to Third Earth from their planet Bear. So again, another refugees from a planet. We don't know why they left Bear to come to Third Earth, but they're here.
You know, maybe they should have had an origin story. Did they ever have an origin story for the Burbles?
I don't think so. I think they just came.
I think it's funny that they're like furry, but they're also robotic. Because they're like, are they combination? Are they living? They're living creatures, but they're also robotic. It's almost like the Borg from Star Trek.
Yes.
They're, biological or
organic and
robotic.
They're
they're both organic and robotic. So interesting, very sweet. They show them, right? They show them around their village and they show them the fields of all the candy fruit and all the...
The Thundercats Wikipedia says that Bear is a small planet located many galactics away from Third Earth. It is the home planet of the robotic bears Bear Burbles. The gentle and peace-loving Burbles lived happily on their planet for a long time, but their increasing population quickly led to overcrowding on their small planet. In order to solve this problem, some groups of Burbles left the planet in spaceships to search for new homes. Wow! Two groups of Burbles ended up arriving on Third Earth. The first one comprised of Bear Bill, his wife Bear Belle, and many Burbles. And they settled in a small area where they built their homes and grew their fruit. Their settlement is known as the Burble Village. So the Burbles also all sound alike. So they have this very like robotic, and they make like high-pitched sounds.
Yeah, that would be right.
They all look the same, like I said. Honestly, there's the one female bear has a flower in her hair. So that's...
So she's the Smurfette of the village.
Honestly, yeah. And she's like a pinkish...
Yeah, something like that.
Like a pinkish color. Robert
So
Bell.
she is Smurfette to the hundreds of Smurfs.
She's gentle, kind, and hardworking. And she generally tends to domestic duties and being a wonderful host to her guests. This is her official synopsis.
You can also reach her at Universal Appeal 2020.
Yes, this is. Okay, so back to the summary. So they meet the Roberts, and at first they're nervous that they're going to attack them because they do pull Snarf and Lionel out of this hole with these ropes. So they lasso them, and they pull them up so they are bound, their arms. And Robert Bill pulls out a knife, and they think that he's going to attack them, but he cuts them free.
He's like, I brought my trusty pocket knife.
It's a very small dagger.
From the Burble village.
Burbles are pacifists, honestly. They offer the candy fruit, which they grow, to Lionel and Snarf. And Snarf says that he is going to try it first because he's, I guess, the royal taste tester. He doesn't want Lionel to be poisoned. So he tries it first, and he is loving this candy fruit. So it's fruit that grows on trees, but it tastes like candy?
Some of it looks like candy. One of them look like a candy cane.
Candy cane,
but
right.
Some of the other fruit looks like a fig, but like a white fig.
So there's all different types of it, but it's delicious.
Delicious, yes.
While they're showing Snarf around the village with Lionel, an alarm is sounded, which scatters everybody. Robert Bill explains that the alarm signifies that the Troggles, I hope I'm saying that right, are about to attack the village.
I don't think they'll be offended.
You know what they looked like? They
Dogs.
looked like the Moblins from Zelda, the original Legend of Zelda almost. They had like those Moblin faces, like the dog face.
Like, they look like dogs. They look like not a Sharpei.
Like bulldog.
Bulldog. They have bulldog faces, yeah.
Oh, here we go. They are bulldog-like creatures regularly plunder their village for their burble fruit. So Lionel is getting very angry like this because the burbles' only defense are like spitballs that they're trying to deter them by shooting out these non-pointed like rubber bullets through straws.
It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Literally. And Lionel's like so angry. He's like, "What are you doing? Why don't you attack them? Why are you letting them raid their village?" And the burbles are saying, "This always happens. They will get the fruit." And he's like, "Why are you doing this?" And he's like, "We're gentle. We don't want to hurt them." So Lionel says he can't take it any longer. We're seeing another power that the Sword of Omens does. He creates a round disc-like shield that just scares them away.
Yeah, they go to attack and then get propelled back because it's like a force field.
Again, the Sword of Omens does everything that you need it to do. So
it's a Swiss Army knife. It's a Swiss Army knife of magical swords.
So while they learned that the burbles are sympathetic to the Troggles because they are only coming to take the fruit because there are giants that are blocking the trees that these bulldog creatures would normally eat. So to be able for them to eat, they have to bring these giants candy fruit to do a trade. So these giants block the trees that the Troggles eat, and the only way is for them to bring them candy fruit, and then they'll give them these leaves to eat. So the giants are not very happy about this. At the same time, now that they are good friends with the Thundercats because Lionel helped protect them, the burbles are unaware that mumm-ra has been quietly observing all of this from his black pyramid. He's furious that the Thundercats...
Alexa has been listening this whole time. Siri and Alexa have been watching and listening this whole time.
Honestly, mumm-ra has a cauldron and he is constantly watching. That's his form of entertainment. He watches what goes on.
Do you think he ever watches them in the bathroom?
I mean...
He's watched them sleeping? Anyway, that's a whole other story. He's like, "That's why I call you the Cub Bear."
Cub. The giants are angry and decide to attack the burble village themselves. Realizing that the giants would be too much for him to handle alone, Lionel summons the other Thundercats who arrive in the Thunder Tank and help him defeat the mighty beings. Mumm-ra now is pissed off that they have an endless supply of food.
He's like, damn it, I couldn't starve them now.
That's honestly, he's like, oh, now they have food. So the Thundercats befriend the Burbles, and mumm-ra transforms into a swarm of locusts and attacks the Burble village. So they go right from these giants attacking to the Burbles saying, I think they even they say plague. I think they say something like that, like plague, swarm, and locusts attack, and the Burbles have torches, and they're trying to get these evil locusts away. Meanwhile, mumm-ra's magic form of locust, and it turns into a gigantic, massive locust into one being. Lionel leaps into the giant locusts and forces it to fly away from the village, saving the Burbles.
However,
Yes.
he jumps on the back of this locust, and the locust goes over a semi-inactive volcano and
Yes.
turns back into the multiple locusts, and Lionel falls down.
Which is a
into this-
great
into
idea
this
of mumm-ra
volcano.
to let
Yeah,
him
it's
go
perfect.
fall into the volcano.
It's perfect. And then as Lionel is falling, Lionel's going, the sword, because he can't reach it. And then Jaga appears and says, call to it, it will obey you.
So again, Obi-Wan Kenobi comes to Luke Skywalker and says to call for the sword, call for the lightsaber.
Yeah, exactly. He says, Sword of Omens, come to my hand. I, Lionel, Lord of the Thundercats, command. He has to really grandstand. I would have just said, sword, here, like Charmed. I would have been like, Paige, just call sword. But I guess he needed to go through all that grandstand.
But this is something that comes up again in future episodes. So like, to call the Sword of Omens, Lionel will from now on say, Sword of Omens, come to my hand. I, Lionel, Lord of the Thundercats, command it.
Is this also the episode that shows that Lionel can use the Sword of Omens to get sight beyond sight? Is that in this episode, the first
Yes,
time?
it is. Yes, perfect. Great trivia. So when he is introduced to the Burbles earlier, the sword does go off with the alert.
Dun, dun,
And
dun, dun,
The
dun,
Burbles
dun.
are nervous, and he's like, don't be afraid, this is the Sword of Omens, this is a warning, and therefore he uses sight beyond sight for the first time, which is when Lionel places the Sword of Omens in front of his eyes, and
The sword curves up. And
yes,
you can see between the two.
eyepieces, and the center is the Eye of Thundercats, so he's able to see, which is, I think, is a great power to have in the sword. You can see future events, basically, with the Sword of Omen.
The sword says, Molly girl, you in danger. What
Right?
movie
I mean,
is that
it's like literally usually like right before it happens, so he gets it, but at least the sixth sense of the sword does usually always help. So basically, the Sword of Omens is amazing,
from? And that's why everybody wants it.
but only Lionel can wield it. So we
That's an
also...
issue. That's an issue. Do you ever feel like Mumm-ra is also like a Karen? Not in my neighborhood. You're letting cats into the neighborhood?
Well,
Like,
yes,
gets
he
all pissed off.
definitely...
They're on a huge planet. What does it matter if a race of cat people, it's like a handful of cat people that won't even be able to reproduce probably, it lands on your planet and you're like millions and millions of miles away? Do I know what's going on in Spain, for example, right now? I have no idea unless I Google it. Like,
Well, you know
why
what
would
it
I be
is?
worried about it? Because he's evil.
I think, could it be because he senses that it's a force of good?
He's an
I'm
evil
thinking
Karen.
that's the only...
He's an evil Karen. Not in my neighborhood.
You will not build that cat's lair.
That is not part of the Pyramid HOA. The Black
That's right, the
Pyramid
homework
HOA.
system.
I'm sorry, the Burbles cannot build your cat's lair
I
without
told
the proper
you.
permits.
I told you not to plant candy fruit, Karen. I told you to put palm trees in.
Mumm-ra the Karen. Oh my god. So yes, Jaga'S spirit does materialize and advises Lionel to call for the Sword of Omens. He complies and the sword flies to Lionel and he flies out of the volcano because the Sword of Omens will also allow him to fly.
It gets him. It actually gets enlarged, like a large. Like
Yes,
a large-
it goes to its full mast because the sword does grow. We never mentioned that, I don't believe, in previous episodes.
I'm just gonna say a man thought of that. That's all I got to say about it.
So the Sword of Omens is in a more compact form when it's not being used. It actually fits on Lionel's claw shield on his arm.
It's like a dagger. It's pretty cool that it does because it's easier to carry that way.
Yes, so it is a dagger form, and when he says thunder, 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 the sword grows when thunder is said. So it gets to a larger form, usually about 3, goes to the longest, which is the 3rd Thunder, and it becomes a full-on sword. But that sword almost like glides with him. It's not like flying per se, but I guess it will, like, as he's holding it, it kind of like he can Mary Poppins out of things, like he kind of glides out.
Well, also then a light shoots out of the center, the eye, and stabilizes him and places him down on the ground. So almost like a booster rocket, like on a thing. It kind of...
So again, the Sword of Omens is the most powerful sword of the 80s.
Yeah, I kind of think it beats He-Man's sword.
Maybe not She-Ra's, but He-Man's. I guess because She-Ra's, like we mentioned in the previous episodes, she could do sword to lasso, sword to shields. But Lionel's got everything basically built into
all
that.
the stuff that Lionel's sword does, and this is a whole nother conversation, everything that Lionel's sword does is magic based, where She-Ra can call for a shield, but it turns into an actual like metal shield. Lionel can just spin it around and turn it into a magical like force field. So I guess they'd make beautiful children. Both of their swords would make beautiful children.
Wow, can you imagine the sword? Yeah, the sword of protection and the sword of omens married together. The 2 glass eye pieces.
Beautiful children, beautiful.
So after this all happens, the Burbles went through with this episode. They got attacked by the bull-faced creatures. Then the giants came for them. Then directly right after that, mumm-ra's swarm of locusts came for them. But they're still up for helping the Thundercats. So that evening, the Burbles organize a huge feast for their new friends, the Thundercats.
Return of the Jedi Ewok Village celebration, much?
Totally. Robert Bill then notices that Tigra has blueprints for the cat's lair and that he and the other Burbles offer to help them construct it. The Thundercats accept the Burbles' kind offer with gratitude. So now we have Cat's Lair in motion. We have people that can actually help build Cat's Lair. The Burbles
New
like
friends,
to build.
a
New friends.
Food supply, relationships, and now they become their unofficial protector. So they also have, besides survival, now they have a cause to fight for. Besides just living on Third Earth, they are the unofficial protectors of the Burbles, so they have something else to fight for.
So in this episode, the Burbles assist the Thundercats with constructing their fortress, this Cat's Lair. As we mentioned, this episode also marks the first time that Lionel calls the Sword of Omens to his hands. This episode, again, also marks the first time that Jaga is depicted in a blue-gray color scheme. The previous episodes, Exodus and Holy Alliance, show him having the same color as his living form, only slightly transparent. The mutants are absent from this episode, and the episode also makes the debut of the Thundercats' most iconic vehicle, the Thunder Tank, that is very true. And for the first time, mumm-ra shows off his power to take the form of other creatures and beings when he transforms into the swarm of locusts. I also want to say that the official moral to this episode is Lionel learns the value of friendship and the importance of cooperation. When groups have interests in common, joining together and sharing their talents and resources can best serve their welfare. Positive peer group relations are important for children. They provided opportunities to interact socially, express emotions, develop self-image, and solve problems. Lionel does learn, to work together with other people. It does touch on the fact that he's very like, why aren't you doing anything? He could not understand that the Burbles were peaceful and they just let these other creatures attack them, which I could understand. He's saying, why aren't you doing anything? But it does teach him a lesson into maybe wait, figure out.
Hopefully in the future realize that just because his belief is a certain way, like I would have been the fight because I think it's ridiculous they would let them just attack them, but it also shows him that he has to respect other people's beliefs and he has to not be narrow-minded. Again, going back to a child or a young adult who typically is very self-centered and only can see one side of the coin, so to speak. This is also, again, where there's like character development here, which I think, again, speaks to why we also like these cartoons, because this is definitely character development. It's actually, as a child looking at it, you also see a different perspective. It actually it does teach you a value or a moral, or to look at your own beliefs or your own way of thinking, or having patience, and you don't even realize it because it's a cartoon and you're watching it. Cartoons have formed. This is the reason why, the reason why I believe that people our age and even a little bit younger really have, again, maybe I'm overstepping, definitely have a what appears to be a kind of a more of a moral compass than certain other people. And I don't even mean that in a horrible way, but like not as me centric as.
Yes, that's the difference between we grew up in this generation where these cartoons did have more morals, as opposed to, again, I don't want to badmouth the new Thundercats, but they are portrayed, again, it is canceled now, Thundercats Raw. It was more of a comedy series, but they do portray the heroes in modern cartoons, I feel like, as more of selfish and more
vapid, selfish, self-serving,
like they're very condescending, yes, and that's what's cool about them. Like Chitara is like a know-it-all, like condescending, like diva in like the new one, and like they make fun of Tigra because he likes to read, and Lionel is an idiot in the new Thundercats Raw, but. There's a difference between the characters that were just purely, they're good people, they make mistakes, we'll see in future episodes. We're building the world of Thundercats. Once we get past the first episodes where they're building their friendships, like David said, they're building their fortresses, they're building their vehicles. Once we get to a certain point, then the plot just expands so fully and we see the full world of Third Earth and all of its inhabitants.
Good, bad, and ugly.
And there are many of them.
Mm-hmm.
So next episode will be The Slaves of Castle Plun-Darr. That will air the last Friday of next month. And we will be back with all new episodes of the Thundercats Review. You can reach David at Universal Appeal 2020 and the Radical Retro Rewind Podcast at Radical Retro Podcast. Both all one word on Instagram. If you'd like to leave any comments or any questions for us to tackle on the show, please send us a message, leave us a voicemail.
Send us mumm-ra pictures.
Yeah, send us your best
mumm-ra fan art. I would love to, if anybody wants to
do mumm-ra as Karen. Mumm-ra Karen.
Mumm-ra Karens, that would be great. I would love to see that.
I'm picturing what, like, mumm-ra with a blonde John and Kate +8 haircut. And maybe a red sweater as opposed to a red cloak.
And refusing to wear a mask when he goes into the Burble Village.
Mumm-ra, you must wear a mask.
I will not.
It is
I will speak to Robert Barbour.
You don't have to wear a mask in the Black Pyramid.
And if anyone wants to follow along with us, Thundercats is streaming for free on the basic Hulu account.
Thunder! 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 Thundercats!